Alright, Movie Club, this is a review for The Men Who Stare at Goats. And I'm just going to get right into this. I was disappointed by this movie. I could not find myself getting into it throughout the entire picture. The only reason I watched it from beginning to end was so I could do this review. And it took me a while to figure out why I didn't like this movie. It wasn't the cast. The cast did pretty well. George Clooney did good in his role as Lynn. He freaked me out actually a little bit during the flashbacks because he looked a lot like Steve Prefontaine. Google him if you don't know who he is. Uh, Ewan McGregor, I'll admit I've never seen him in anything. I've never seen Star Wars Episodes 2 or 3. They're the only two Star Wars movies I haven't seen, and I don't plan on seeing them anytime soon either, to be honest. But he did a good job in his role, and I noticed they were kind of poking fun at him being in the Star Wars movies with, the Jedi Academy stuff. Um, Jeff Bridges is awesome in pretty much everything he does. This is no exception, so we'll just move on. Kevin Spacey, I had to look up the most recent film I've seen him in before this one, and I was surprised it wasn't American Beauty. It was Austin Powers and Goldmember. I don't get why he doesn't act anymore, but he did all right in this movie, so let's move on. I think the problem I found with this movie was the plot. And it was just that I could not buy into it. For a lot of movies, it's either trying to be realistic or it's just going to be a big fantasy. It's going to be made up. It's not supposed to be realistic. This one tried to be both. It tried to be realistic while not realistic, if that makes sense. And for that, I just could not find myself getting into it whatsoever. There have been comedic war movies done in the past. Just look at MASH. They made a successful movie and a long-running TV series while about, the Vietnam War. But this one just didn't work for me. It just didn't seem to mesh well for me. And also the title of the movie threw me off a little bit. The Men Who Stare at Goats. Uh, they didn't bring up goats really whatsoever in the movie. There's a beginning where Ewan McGregor is interviewing Stephen Root, and he's talking about, oh yeah, there was this guy who made a goat's heart stop one time. And then goats aren't brought up again for like another hour when George Clooney's talking about it. And then at the end, when George Clooney, Ewan McGregor, and Jeff Bridges release the goats into the wild, which seems like a bad idea in retrospect. You're releasing, 40, 50 goats into the desert with no food or water available anywhere, except for like that small puddle where Ewan McGregor and George Clooney found right before the psych guys took him in. Those goats are dead. That just, I feel bad for those goats looking back at it now. But I don't get why it was called The Men Who Stare at Goats when the goats are only talked about or featured for like, 10, 15 minutes of the movie? That just didn't make sense to me. So overall, Men Who Stare at Goats seemed kind of promising, but kind of fell flat to me.